All right, last but certainly not least, we have Pat Bertagnolli. He's the Executive Director for Job Service North Dakota. Pat has extensive experience in leadership positions, most notably as a multi-state operations manager, a workforce planning and employee relations manager. Prior to joining Job Service, he was the Community Enhancement Director in Watford City and was instrumental in engaging the community, establishing partnerships with industries, promoting student ambassador programs, and leading the community in its strategy to promote the benefits of working and living in North Dakota. Pat has been a member of the North Dakota Workforce Development Council for over 10 years, and he currently serves on the State Board for Career and Technical Education. Let's give a warm welcome to Pat Bertagnolli.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I will tell you, I was putting my slide deck together last night, and I might hit you with a little ADHD. I couldn't decide which slides to put in there, but I promise I'm going to deliver every one of them with a little enthusiasm today. So anyway, super glad to be here, and I want to, just before I dive into my presentation, I just want to kind of acknowledge a few folks here in Bismarck, North Dakota, and that's number one, my team. So you guys inspire me every single day. I'm certainly very proud of you, and I consider it a privilege to tell your story and to cheerlead Job Service North Dakota. So could we please give my team a round of applause? And then if you haven't heard me speak, I'm very relational. People are very, very important to me. And I just wanted to kind of go through my photos last night of just some of the slides and the opportunity that I've had to spend time with you guys. And you guys are all very, very important to me, and I love every one of you. But the one thing that I will say about Minot, North Dakota, when I first got into this job, I reached out to Senator Burkhart, and I was coming over here to speak at a nonprofit organization. And I said, let's go have coffee. And he said, who do you want at the table? And I said, well, or he said, who do you want at the table? I'm like, anybody you want. And he said, what's the topic? I'm the new executive director, man. So that top left picture, he gathered all those people. And what I love about Minot is just how nimble you are. I know that we used that word earlier, and how quick you are to come together to celebrate your community and share with others that may not be from here, just how wonderful your community is. There's some students from Watford City going to school over here, and just even President Shirley, my wife and I came over for a basketball game, and just the showmanship and hospitality was out of this world. So again, I appreciate you guys. I'm a super fan of yours, and more to come on that. So kind of back to the beginning, welcome to North Dakota. I always like to tell people I'm not from here. I'm from the state of Montana. I spent 22 years with UPS and had a wonderful career. I was a UPS driver for 8 years in Helena, Montana. Then I went into operations and HR, multi-state, and I met a lot of wonderful people throughout that journey. And one of the folks that I met, his name was Terry Moe, and he was based out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And Terry surprised us in 2010. He decided to leave UPS and go help his hometown with an oil boom. And that hometown was Watford City, North Dakota. Terry reached out to me in June of 2011. He said, I need an HR guy, and you're it. I said, thanks, but no thanks. I'm not leaving Montana. I'm not leaving UPS, and I am sure as hell not coming to North Dakota. And he said, just do me a favor, come out and take a look at it. And I want you to take that as the takeaway. I said no to North Dakota, and I'm living my best life right now, and I'm so beyond grateful to North Dakota. But he said, come out and take a look at it. And those dirty buggers flew a private jet into Helena, Montana, picked me up, and I said, I'm listening. And they brought me back to Watford City, and I spent a day and a half there in that hustle and bustle in 2011. But I tell people it wasn't the job that got me. It was how kind the people of North Dakota are. We went to a restaurant, and we had lunch with the CEO and my friend Terry. And when we were leaving the restaurant, the owner chased after me, and she said, Pat, it was wonderful to meet you. We hope you consider joining our community. We'd love to have you. I tell people to this day, that's what got me. That community made me feel welcome, special, important, needed, and wanted. Sealed the deal for me. And I moved my family to Watford City, North Dakota. Since then, I had a front row seat to the greatest growth in the nation from 2010 to 2020. It was such an exhilarating experience to me that here I am at the state because I want to tell the world what I saw and what I learned. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So I always like to kind of show these numbers out there. We got close to 13,000 open jobs. We know that number is likely higher because not everybody lists their open jobs. You can see the top 5 occupations, no surprise there. But I'm going to tell you what my favorite part of this slide is. you'll see that out of all the open jobs in the state of North Dakota, 38.5, we'll call it 40%, require a 4-year degree or higher. What it doesn't say is that 60% don't. Has anybody noticed the CT movement that we got going on here in the state of North Dakota? And I'm telling you right now, I'm an HR person and a recruiter by trade. And I hope that you're taking the opportunity. I think it's somewhat achievable to get people out here, but we need to let people know that aren't from here that we're trying to get to North Dakota to understand that their kids are just as important to us, and we've got a wonderful trajectory for them. The labor force participation rate, we talked about that earlier. North Dakota holds the title for 4 months in a row for the highest labor force participation rate in the nation. We're the hardest working state in the nation. That's something that we can all be proud of. But that comes with some problems. We don't have enough people to fill our open jobs in the state of North Dakota, and I'm telling you right now, there's no way out of this. We have to recruit people from somewhere else to the state of North Dakota. And as we talk about all these different things, I will say when there's not an easy answer to how do we fill our open jobs, I revert back to the fundamentals. I'm inspired by Vince Lombardi, who used to get in front of his professional football players at the beginning of a training camp and hold up a pigskin in his right hand and say, "Gentlemen, this is a football." Never letting those players forget what their game's about. We got a lot of environmental noise going on, and sometimes we forget what our game's about. So I think, what is our game about? And to me, it's about people. And how do we get back to the simple fundamentals of providing support, encouragement, and finding ways to bring out the best in each other? That's what I think our game's about. So I will tell you that as we think about having people come to North Dakota, we have to understand that that's a lot of anxiety and fear. And my wife and I are not above that fear and anxiety. So when I got appointed by Governor Burgum, I had to leave people in a community that I love, Watford City, to move to Bismarck to pursue greater impact, which was worth it for me. But when we moved to Bismarck, the neighbors came over and they started welcoming us to the neighborhood. It was wonderful. But my favorite story about that was Neil and Carrie Shea, a beautiful young family in our neighborhood, came over to welcome my wife and I to their neighborhood, and they brought their 2 little girls, Claire and Emily, age 5 and 3. And here's what they brought us. That is where North Dakota Nice starts, my friends. And I like to talk about Claire and Emily a little bit because they're just super fans, and they've got my wife and I locked and loaded for every fundraiser that they have at their school. But little Claire at 5, she has so much to say that she runs out of air and she reloads. My wife and I are inspired by her spirit, her energy, and just her love of life. Some of you may be working for Claire one day. Little Emily, at the age of 3, she runs around the neighborhood wearing a cape. She's a superhero. And as my wife and I were thinking about this, we thought about little Emily. At 3 years old, she's already told us where she fits in this world. She's a superhero. And in that concept and theme of support and encouragement, my wife and I are going to provide support and encouragement along the way, and even gratitude, because we're both super fans of superheroes. And when you think about it, does she become a doctor, a teacher, a police officer, a firefighter, a police officer? Did she join the military? We don't know, but we can't wait to find out. But we'll be cheering her on all the way along the way. So throughout my time speaking, even when I was in oil and gas, I had a company reach out to me, and they were trying to poach me from another company, and they encouraged me to go see the leadership team, which include the CEO and his team. And so I went over there, and they were asking me what my secret sauce was, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But I agreed to go to this this organization, one of the largest ones in McKenzie County at the time. But I told them, I said, I need to get the managers, the supervisors, the VPs, all these people together, because we're going to talk about recruiting and retention. So I brought all these people together, and I said, we're going to talk about recruiting and retention today. And I said to these folks, and this was 2019, I said, you're all familiar with the NDSU Bison football team? And they said, yep. I said, my question to you is, do you think that that organization has a hard time recruiting great players to their team? And they said, no. And I said, why? And here's what they said. Well, Pat, they're national champions. They got a great coach. They got a great playbook. They got great mentoring. They got a culture and attitude of winning. And I'm like, you guys are spot on, man. I got some great connections in the NDSU Bison football team, and you're spot on. So my question to you is this. Do people want to play for your team? And if not, why? You just told me what that looked like. Oh, you could have heard a pin drop. And so one of the managers, his name's John. These guys are still all friends to this day. John says, what are you insinuating, Pat? I said, great question, John. I said, we got people coming out to the state of North Dakota kicking the tires to see if this is a place that they want to bring their family, John. And my question to you, John, are you doing the 30, 60, 90-day check-in with these folks? I'm not. I said, would you? Yes. I said, we're not done, John. I want to know what are you going to talk to them about in that first 30-day check-in. And the VP of the division, work over rig division, raised his hand and said, Pat, I got the first question. First question is going to be, how's your family? Oh, I like that. That's a great question. What's the next question? Well, Pat, you said they've been here 30 days, so they've had at least one, if not two paychecks. We're going to ask them if those paychecks have been accurate. We're making it about them. I like where this is going. Third question, how's your training? Fourth question, is there any input that you would have for us to make our training better? Fifth question, how's your integration into the community? We want you to have a great outside of life quality of life because we want you to stay. And the last question, my favorite, we're growing and we need people and we want people like you. So our question to you, do you have any referrals for us? We're not going to promise that we're going to hire everyone that you send us. We promise we'll look at everyone you send us. I have lived my life, my entire life, on this sentence. Birds of a feather flock together. I also want to just kind of say, I've been working with Team Job Service since I got here. Been a super fan. I've never come from big budgets when it came to recruiting. But when I was at this organization and my boss just happened to be Kirsty Armstrong, you might know her husband, Kelly. But I worked with her and Maria Scari, who now is the president of Trinity Catholic Schools in Dickinson. But we worked together and we created a classy rejection letter. So all these HR systems are so busy and so proud to weed people out. I don't like it at all. Can we weed people back in? And this is a live rejection letter that I was getting people applying for CDL jobs. I can't hire them. They don't have a CDL. But you know what I can do? I can tell them where to go get their CDL. I can support my neighbor over at Wilson State College when I was over there. But you'll see that I put it in there. I tell them where to go. And if not, at least go get with our friends at jobsnd.com. And if not a fit for you, let's educate and redirect. And you can see the responses off to the side. I told them no, that we're not going to hire them, but they were ecstatic. And we still have the opportunity, when we tell somebody no, to still represent the state of North Dakota with class. So leaving Watford City, I'm not going to go into my whole kid story thing, which is killing me today, but I'm going to tell you that the answer to the test from my perspective is just our opportunity to align community, school, and industry. And I have kind of a fun story with Representative Schreiberbeck. She was bragging about Hankinson, North Dakota, so I got to go take a look at Hankinson. So I pulled my team from Wahpeton over there, and we spent the day over there. I got in front of the high school students that day, and I said, I'm going to go visit businesses in your community today. And every one of them is going to tell me that they need people. So I need two things from you. Number one, I need you off the bench and in the game, and I need you going out there to pursue work-based learning or job shadowing. And the second thing I need from you is we don't have enough people in the state of North Dakota, so I absolutely need you to be in a position of welcoming new people to your community. Can I get a head nod from those of you in Hankinson, North Dakota who are willing to do that? And all the high school kids are going, fantastic, Hankinson, we're getting somewhere. So then I go out and visit the businesses. I hit them up. Are you doing work-based learning? Are you doing job shadowing? If not, why? And do you want your kids to stay here? Do you want them to be aware of all the jobs and the great jobs that are in this community? Then that's the pathway from my perspective. But we go to this company, machine manufacturing, wonderful people. They ship heavy farm equipment around the world. I asked them, how'd you start this business? Gosh, Pat, we went on a mission trip to Ukraine 20 years ago. We ran into the right people, and here we are, Pat. That was a dad telling me that. His daughter says, and we have customers in 75 countries. I said, excuse me? I said, do the high school students know that? And Dad said, no. And I said, why? He said, we don't want to brag. I said, this is not about bragging, my friend. This is about community pride. I'd have a world map up at the high school, and I'd have a pin in every country that little Hankinson, North Dakota, is impacting around the world. This community is less than 1,000 people. And he says to me, I said, I'm here today because you don't have enough people. I'm telling you right now, we got to take credit, and we got to be willing to, we're competing with the world for labor. So we got to be able to stand up and be prideful of what we're doing and the great things that are going on. And he says to me, well, when you say it like that, it makes sense. Had a wonderful day over there, and I've since been invited to that school's first ever annual FFA banquet, which was a Friday. My wife and I went over there. We took Becky, our manager from Wahpeton, and had a wonderful experience over there. When it comes to helping these kids figure out where they fit in this world, from my perspective, we don't walk, we run. So the other opportunities, serving on the CT board, I've had the opportunity to get in front of a lot of these students across the state. We've got wonderful leaders across the state in all these positions, and I've challenged them. They're working on wonderful things, but I want them to advocate for their community. And we have opportunity. We're so interested in pulling them into our world. Can we go into their world for a little bit? Can we maybe help them with some mental health, getting through that and some other things? Can we help them get into the elementary schools and show them how they can be great influencers with the little people that are in their community? We've got just tremendous opportunities to work with these students. And I came across this on a Sunday on CBS Sunday Morning. And this is kind of what I see, and I love this story because, it's easy for us to get desensitized on how amazing our communities are, and I can't read the print down there, but, I can. She says, it's easy to become desensitized. This is a high school student. Now she sees the visitors every day who overwhelmingly marvel at the beauty in the place she calls home. We all have that opportunity. I will tell you, there's not a community I've visited in this state that I wouldn't call home. They're that amazing to me. So I had the opportunity to do a Main Street conference panel with some students. These kids are absolutely wonderful. I talked to Kelly. I'm going to send you guys the link. I want you to watch this because I want you to see what's possible. It's no different. Brecca and I, Kelly and I working together, all of us working together. Well, I'm going to tell you what I want. I want these high school kids networking across the state. I want them to know that Hillsboro, Degelman expansion in a community of 1,650 people is something to celebrate statewide. I want us to be prideful of all the things that are going on in North Dakota, regardless of where they're going on. So I want to connect these students, to students across the state, and I'd love to tell you all their stories, but you just got to hear them. Every one of those students is doing work-based learning. The third from the right, that's Sasha. What is so inspiring to me about Sasha is I hired her dad in 2012. He was a UPSer as well. Pulled him over. And she was so grateful. She's a 4 gold medalist gymnast. She was the all-around gymnast. And she was so grateful. She's working work-based learning at a health clinic. And I said to her, Sasha, communities are worried to get high school kids into the health clinics, and they're worried about this, and even communities. I'm like, what's HIPAA, Sasha? What happens at the clinic stays at the clinic. Wonderful, mic drop. So you guys got to watch this. And I'm going to be going to Valley City on Friday. I'm going to immerse myself into that community. I got Josh Johnson, the superintendent over there, gathering all these people. He watched that video and he said, Pat, this is mind-blowing. I've made all my people. He sent it out to the student council, who I'm also going to meet with. But we all have the opportunity to get off the bench and advocate for our communities. So just a couple of things at Job Service that I'm super proud of is, we're going to find ways to ride other people's waves. And one of those folks is Careerview XR, Matt Shosey at Be More Colorful. What I love about what he's doing is he's creating these virtual career experiences around the in-demand jobs in the state of North Dakota. And we cannot get every student across the state out to a well site, for example, but what we can do is get that experience out to every student across the state. And if we're going to be intentional about retaining our students, giddy up and let's go. And I'm sure some of you have heard about Are You Ready? When I get in front of high school students, I'm like, take this serious, man. We got Patrick Manier, a former Microsoft guy, who's working his butt off to put this platform together to connect employers and students so that these students have access to reach out to employers to ask them questions or ask about intern opportunities. So if you're not working with Are You Ready? I just encourage you to do so from an employer standpoint, get in the game and be accessible to these students. So the other thing that we're doing at Job Service too is, I look at life as an HR and how do we upskill our communities across the state? And this is one of the things that we did. We did a work-based learning webinar. And we pulled the Department of Labor. I can tell you when I did work for Kirsty, I'm going to tell you a story here in a second about a student that we pulled in. But as we were going through that, we were worried about WSI. We were worried about Department of Labor and Human Rights. Are we breaking any rules? What's the answer? Which box do we check, not check? Well, we figured it out, and I pulled those agencies in to be a part of the webinar. So if you could do me one favor, I want every employer across the state of North Dakota to include Minot. I want them to watch that webinar. And I've got wonderful stories in there about just our opportunities to help these kids figure out where they fit in this world. So this is Peyton. He's originally from Wyoming. I was hiring 10 people a week at the time in oil and gas. And we partnered with Peyton to help integrate our new employees into the community by simply inviting those folks to Peyton's football game. Let's go support Peyton. And that picture on the bottom left, it was at shift change for our photo op, so we had a lot more people come. But we simply call that United We Stand. And I tell high school students across the state, here's what I want from you. I need you off the bench. I need you getting out there and getting job shadowing or work-based learning. But don't assume that that organization is connected to your school or your community. So when you get in there, here's what I want you to do. I want you to invite that organization and those employees to your games, your concerts, your plays. And I promise you that if you do that, you'll help that organization build a culture that people want to be a part of by just facilitating that journey to get them in position to better support you. And I watch their facial expressions and they're like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. I was in Stanley, North Dakota last week, T4, Tools, Trades, Torque, and Tech. And we're coming to Minot. I talked to Kent Ellis last night, and we're super stoked. But when I took those pictures, I said, I'm sending this to the governor's office, so give me your best smile. But what I love about it, and Representative Thomas, we were over in Botno and had him and Anderson show up. They thought that was fantastic. And again, I tell these students that 60% of our jobs in the state of North Dakota don't require a 4-year degree, and those are the folks that are here today. And they're here today not because they have to be. They're here today because they're investing in North Dakota's future, and that is you. So again, wonderful momentum going on across the state with CTE and our opportunity to really build that culture that people want to be a part of and just really have a great trajectory for our students. Some of these kids that I worked with in Watford are now in college, Bismarck State University. I got Emma Mogan over here and her sister over here, both playing basketball. But some of these kids, I had them come into the governor's office and I pulled some different agencies in. And sometimes we get so concerned with data that we forget what these people look like that make up that data. So these kids have all agreed to recruit people back to their community. So I wanted people to hear their stories. But the University of Mary students, they had record enrollment last year, but they were chuckling because some of the students coming to North Dakota from warm weather climates are asking, how long do I leave my car running? How do I drive in inclement weather? And I was like, oh. So I called Colonel Solberg, head of the Highway Patrol. I told him about this meeting day, and I said, I thought I had everybody at the table, Colonel Solberg, but I missed one, you. So my question to you, Colonel Solberg, is this. Would you go to Bismarck State with me, University of Mary, and would you go to every college campus across the state of North Dakota? Can we go in there and thank these folks for saying yes to North Dakota? Can we be welcoming and grateful that they're here, but maybe throw in a little bit of, safe weather, safe driving tips? And he said to me, Pat, I'd much rather spend my time with education and outreach versus responding to incidents. So I'm all in, and I'll talk about shortly who he connected me with. As I travel around the state, I was at Lake Region, and next to me is Arden. She's a basketball player for that school, and she's from Fargo. She played for Fargo North. And I said, what made you pick this school, Arden? Oh, when I came here, they were very nice, very kind, and very welcoming. I'm like, Arden, that's my story. I said, let me ask you a question, Arden. Have you ever been to Graham Zion State Park? I have not. 7 miles away, Arden, what's the problem? And she was so proud of how inclusive they were with all the people from all over the world. And I said to her, Arden, I got an idea. If we could find a way to get everybody, all these people that you're proud of, to Graham Zion State Park, do you think we might wow them a little bit? Oh, I think that's a great idea. I'm going to ask you again, Arden, is it a good idea? I think it's a great idea. So I'm going to quote you then, Arden. Arden thinks it's a great idea. We have the opportunity to wow people while they're here. I talked to President Shirley. I talked to Cole Garman with North Dakota Parks and Rec last night at 8:30. I said, Cole, going to Minot. Where would we take Minot State? Fort Stevenson, Pat. So we talked about it. How do we get the students from Minot over there, and how do we wow them? Who doesn't want to go to the record holder for the most number of s'mores made? I mean, knock anybody home? Fort Stevenson's they're a record holder with the Guinness Book of World Records. They were recognized last week at the governor's thing. So anyway, I've become a super fan of North Dakota Parks and Rec. My wife and I have immersed ourselves in that experience and met all those people across the state who are doing a wonderful job wowing people across the state. This serves as a dual role for me, though, because I want to get to know those people and I want to find out ways that we can get new people out to those North Dakota state parks. But I also know that mental health and well-being are serious conversations. And I am by no means a subject matter expert on that, but everything I read talks about the importance of getting out into nature. And welcome our friends from North Dakota Parks and Rec. The bottom left, Sergeant Jenna Hubrights, who is a frickin' rock star. She is the person for the Highway Patrol that is going to get into these schools to do the safe driving, self-defense, whatever it might be. We're working with a student from University of Mary right now on that. But we got in front of the 11 colleges and universities, and I said, I want in. I want to be able to get in front of these students and say, thanks for choosing North Dakota. And just by the way, I got a frickin' wonderful team at Job Service North Dakota, and we have something that you want someday, an employer. And we'd love the opportunity and the privilege to find a way to connect you to these wonderful people across the state of North Dakota. So we're getting in front of them. NDSU took me up on it. So we went over there. I took Game and Fish with me. I took Health and Human Services. I took Sergeant Janet. And we're going to find a way to tap into that and help our colleges across the state of North Dakota. They're not on an island by themselves. Let's find a way to work together and help, wow these folks. With the first objective would be to win them over so they stay. But even if they don't stay, let's give them a great story to tell about North Dakota. We can't lose. So the other thing I want to talk about too is just kind of supporting statewide initiatives. We want to be the most financially literate state in the nation by 2027. So we're going to tell that story and get that out. Every employer across Minot, North Dakota, or in Ward County has the opportunity to make this part of their benefits program. It is free, and it's a wonderful program, and we're super excited about it. This is General Johnson. I just swapped this out from General Dorman. General Dorman retired on September 15th. But General Dorman had challenged every agency to get off the bench and find a way to make North Dakota the most military-friendly state in the nation. We said, count us in at Job Service North Dakota. I wrote each of the wing commanders a letter and said, I would love to introduce you to our team at Job Service North Dakota. We're super proud of them, and we're going to do anything and everything we can to facilitate your journey into North Dakota. These are the wing commanders, and I will tell you, Breck and I had the opportunity to go to a military commissions, and the two colonels from Minot were just ecstatic about how welcoming Minot, North Dakota is. They both had their wives there. I was so proud of Minot just by what they were saying, but I also am so proud of this slide. I want to give them a round of applause for what they do to protect our state and our nation. So putting our money where our mouth is, I want to brag a little bit about Chris Smith. He's based out of Bismarck, North Dakota. He won a national award for the work. I've had a whole veterans team at Job Service North Dakota. He took home the title for national award. And then we also had a winner at the governor's conference last week. And Brett is in the house with us here today. He took home an award for the one who helps. We're very proud of you, Brett, and was also nominated by Cindy, who's over there. So can we give Brett a round of applause? Thank you, Brett. The other thing, too, is I'm kind of a lived experience guy, and when I run into a situation, I'm like, oh my gosh, with knowledge comes responsibility. So I happened to be invited to Alexandria, Virginia in January of 2016. I was one of 49 people selected from around the world to go write test questions for the Society of Human Resources Management. In that, I met people from all over the world. One of the folks that I met, her name was Lisa Chong from Malaysia. Well, Lisa flew out to New York to go see her sister and thought that she'd just kind of make a little trip over to North Dakota to come see what I've been bragging about over here. So we took the opportunity to get her to Bismarck State and just all over, took her to an HR meeting. I called my friends at University of Mary and I said, I've got a guest in from Malaysia. Can we have a tour of University of Mary? They called me back the next day and they said, hey, we can do that tour, but wait till you hear this. The student that's going to give the tour is from Malaysia. I'm like, shut the front door. So anyway, I met Andrea Peter, and I said, how's your experience been in North Dakota, Andrea? She goes, look, I'm doing tours of University of Mary. I said, so it's all been good? Oh, I didn't say that. I said, what's not been good, Andrea? Oh, when I first got here, Pat, I sent out 100 applications and a resume. Nobody'd hire me. And there's where that with knowledge comes responsibility. So we built a whole webinar around her. We pulled in a lawyer to talk about this, and I really want you to take the opportunity to watch this, and this is our opportunity to support the Office of Legal Immigration. But I talked to Andrea today. I told her, I'm going to be talking about you. She's in Virginia pursuing her doctorate in psychology and addiction counseling, and I did tell her. I said, Andrea, if I could have got you in front of the Governor's Recovery Reinvented 2 years ago, you would not be leaving the state of North Dakota. Well, anyway, I talked to her today, and she said, Pat, I'm going to be in Bismarck next week. I'm coming to see my boyfriend. I'm like, you're not trying to recruit him out of North Dakota, are you? No. He's all about North Dakota. I said, I like him already. Her and her boyfriend are very passionate about working with people in corrections. I'm like, Andrea, I got a wonderful relationship with corrections, so we're going to go have a cup of coffee at the Capitol. We're going to pull in the clinical doctor from Department of Corrections. Her and her husband want to make a difference in that arena. And again, when it comes to helping our youth figure out a way to make a difference in this world, we run. So I can't wait for that meeting next week. And if any of you guys are in the house over there, I'd love for you to join us for coffee. But wonderful webinar. And this was inspired by Katie Ralston, the Workforce Council. She had my manager, Marcia, do a presentation about labor market information at one of the Workforce Development Council meetings. And I just watched everybody hanging on every word that she said. If you'll see the audience that we brought to the table, we brought Matt in from League of Cities because, he was saying, Pat, if I can get this in front of 6 mayors or some city council, it's a win for me. So we've got a wonderful webinar on labor market information, and we actually use Velva as an example because they lost Dots Pretzel, but we, spun that information and the opportunity to bring some people in to take that over and be the snack capital of the world, whatever that might be. So I'd really encourage you to take the time to watch that. And then super stoked about this, but October 23rd, we have a webinar around JP3. And I want to thank our legislative folks because they gave us some funding to launch this program. Our goal was to have 150 people into this program by January of 2025. We're already at 173 and we're not spending the money that we thought we would. So we're coming back after you guys because we want to add Grand Forks to that. But we're having a wonderful time with this and it's the right thing to do. And we are so inspired by just the success that we're having with this program. I actually get letters from some of these folks that have said, this is the first hope that I've ever had in my life. And it's so inspiring to me and our opportunity to make a difference. So we also have a virtual job fair coming up, nationwide veterans virtual job fair on November 7th. And then we have our massive job fair in January of 2025. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about our results from this year. But I also want to throw out the podcast, the job podcast that we do. Dusty, our manager out of Grand Forks, does a wonderful job on this. And I called him last night too, and we'd love to get some content, more content from Minot, North Dakota. And I will tell you what I love about this is that as Dusty goes out and finds all these people to bring onto this podcast, he's learning and he's expanding our arena and also shares that with our other managers and stuff. So I absolutely love that he's doing this and we're just having a blast with it. So when I first came into job service, Senator Hogue, who's from Minot, reached out to me and said, we're going to be laser focused on workforce, Pat. And so I was inspired, got with the team, and I said, I want to host an open house for the legislative branch coming in January. So we hosted that, and you can see the list of people that we brought there. And I'll be honest with you, I don't call it an orientation, but we had 35% of the legislative branch show up for that. And the late Senator Larson came up to me and he said, Pat, we get invited to a lot of stuff. And I'm going to be honest with you, sometimes we go to these events and we leave and we think, what were we supposed to get out of that? We don't feel this way about this. This was so well done, Pat. Thank everyone who showed up, and we just really appreciate that. I had Stan from adult education, and he said, Pat, I don't get to get in front of the legislative people very often. This was so magical and so inspiring to me. Thank you for this opportunity, but we're doing that again in January. And we really want to just, as these newcomers are coming in, that we let them know that there's some really amazing people around the state doing amazing things. But as I talk about some of these other things that we're doing with other agencies, I will tell you that from the job service perspective, one thing that's very important to us is to find a way to work as one. So I've got stories around all these different agencies and just how we're aligning to make a bigger difference in the state of North Dakota, because when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, we're just simply better together. So our job fair that we had last January, I told you we don't have enough people in the state of North Dakota, but I want to give you some optimistic views here. But we advertised in 6 states last January, and we had 23 states and 21 countries showing up. When I tell you that birds of a feather flock together, I will tell you we had 200 Philippine educators that registered for that event. And I know we weren't advertising over there, but I guarantee you that we've got some Philippine educators in the state of North Dakota right now that are working, trying to get their families out here. So get into the show, and we're super stoked about that. But you can see some comments from Sanford and Bobcat, all that type of stuff. So who we are, we've got some stats there, but the team is fortunate to have just a high-performing team. We're down 40% staffing over the last decade. We had to close 7 offices in 2017. And what I love about this team is that although they've been knocked off that horse more than once, they get back up, they dust themselves off, they get back on that horse, and they go ride for the brand, and that brand is North Dakota. But to just share a little bit, we talked about H2A earlier. 1,243 applications. The team in Job Service North Dakota has put on over 83,307 miles this year. A trip around the world is 24,900 miles. So our team has put 3.35 trips around the world out there hustling to go do these housing inspections to bring in almost 4,200 foreign workers to help our farmers and ranchers. That's the team that I get to call mine. So I'm just very proud of them. But, one thing that I want to show you on this slide is I do get some constructive feedback on occasion. Pat, it's kind of difficult to list jobs on your website. And again, I'm not asking anybody to do anything I've not done myself, but if it takes you 20 minutes to put a job up on our website that has no ads, no spam, I just want you to see the website engagement, 4.9 million page views. And the name of the game to fill positions is you got to be visible. And I don't know if 4.9 million page views is important to you, but it certainly is to me. And just a little note to look for us on social media. The team is doing wonderful things out there, and encourage you to follow us. But I like to share this slide too. As an HR recruiter, I'm hunting and looking for any little intel that I possibly can that might create some optimism around filling our open jobs. And I'll tell you, we have 784,000 people in the state of North Dakota. And when I look at it, 296,000 of those folks were not born in North Dakota. And I'm going to be honest with you, that tells me that we have a massive network, and it's simply called family, friends, and former neighbors. And I'll take it one step further here, Ward County. You guys have over 28,000 people that were not born in this state, which tells me we've got some networks. I'll give you an example. As in Edgeley, North Dakota, community of less than 550 people, I met 2 school board folks, and I said, you guys like Edgeley? Oh, we love Edgeley. Where are you from? Minnesota and South Dakota. I'm like, do you guys know people in Minnesota and South Dakota? Yeah. Can you pick up the phone? And if it's good enough for you, can you invite them out here? Let's get them out here. So we all have the opportunity to be the solution. And that might sound like a little pie in the sky, which is why I like to show this. Not forgetting where I came from. This is the team that I left in Watford City when I moved to Bismarck, North Dakota. If you look at that picture, 72% of the people in that picture were not born in North Dakota. How'd they get here? Well, somebody engaged them, somebody invited them, and we all inspired them. The lower left from New Jersey, that's Brooke. I don't want to make light of the childcare situation, because that certainly is a big, massive thing that we got to figure out, crack the code. Brooke has 2 kids. She could not get into daycare. Didn't stop her. She still had her family because it's important to her. So what is a person to do? Well, I'll tell you what Brooke did. You see Arizona behind her? That's her sister. She invited her sister out to the state of North Dakota to help her. She has since got her mom out here. She's got the whole family out here. But what I love about her story is her sister from Arizona, we rallied around her husband and found him a great job in North Dakota. And what that family is not doing anymore, they're not living paycheck to paycheck anymore because we found him a great job. So everything that I've talked about, our opportunity to work together and to find ways to get people here, and just what I've seen, with the thousands of people I've hired, really comes down to 6 words. And I'm stealing this from the governor. But our opportunity is simply to empower people, improve lives, and inspire success. And although I go around the state and there's not a community that I would not live in, I think they're all amazing. Please don't ever forget this, that together we are North Dakota, and this is home. Thank you. Questions? Am I past my time? Any questions? I just want to call out the mayor here real quick too. When I talk about just the importance of support and encouragement, he invited me to speak at the graduation for Burdick's Job Corps on October 18th, and I am so beyond grateful that you did that. And I'm going to go in there and I'm going to deliver support and encouragement because I'm beyond proud of those folks who are graduating, and I'm proud of their families for getting them there. And so it's just it's the way of life, my friends. So any questions? I didn't scare you guys, did I? Okay. Well, thank you very much. Oh, yes, sir.
So I just read recently that in North Dakota, 1 in 6 employees are in the healthcare industry. Would you agree with that?
Boy, that's a good question. It wouldn't surprise me, I don't think. My team, do you guys have any information on that? You know, the one thing that I will say is that I kind of feel like I've noticed is obviously coming out of COVID, everybody was like, oh, I got to get a shot. I don't want to be a nurse. I'm going to quit nursing, all that stuff. But I will see, you know, say when I go survey, just an informal survey with these students, I am inspired that there seems to be a really good pool of students who are pursuing the healthcare industry. And I just was at the dentist office yesterday, and there was a young lady from a small community in North Dakota. And she said, I knew I wanted to, you know, hit the healthcare profession. And so I do see some momentum there. But the 1 in 6, I couldn't answer, but I could certainly get that for you. Any other questions? Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me be here. And I am going to send you guys a link to that Main Street panel, and I would hope that you take the hour to watch it. I talk fast now. I talked 110 miles an hour on that one because I was worried about not having time for these kids, but they talk about the work-based learning coordinator, all that type of stuff. These kids will just completely blow your mind, and I'm certainly proud of them. So thank you.